as happens every so often in our lives, I am finding myself with some big time holes in my wardrobe. One of which that I can do something about pretty easily is solid colored t-shirts that I actually enjoy wearing. I'm not sure if you've watched my channel for a while, but I tend to wear a lot of white shirts, and that's mostly just because white matches everything. I tend to wear a lot of novelty print or print of some kind skirts that it can be a little difficult to match shirts with unless they're just a totally plain solid color. So I have gone through my stash and pulled out this lovely mint jersey material, and we are going to make myself one of my favorite patterns, the Jennifer Lauren handmade Gable top. So if you would like to see my tips and tricks for how I make this shirt, then let's get sewing. Hello, welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan, and I like to make things. And oh my gosh, it's been so long since I was able to make myself some clothes. Well, that's if you don't count knitting. Obviously, I've made myself clothes with knitting, but it has been so long since I've been able to sew myself some clothes. I purchased this piece of art gallery fabric jersey almost 2 years ago now at the sewing studio sale. I bought myself like 4 yards because it was a really good price, and I absolutely love this color. It tends to go with a lot of things that I wear, and so I'm counting on it being handy for some of the skirts that I wear a lot. And since it's been a while, I'm going to use one of my favorite tried and true patterns, which is the Gable top, and that is what I'm wearing right now. The Gable top is a vintage style slit neck, and it has 3/4 sleeves. It is nice length for me. Obviously, these are tweaks that you can make to anything, but I particularly appreciate the neckline and the way that she tells you to sew it. And I can make it whatever length of sleeve I want, all those kinds of things. So having this in a solid color is very handy. I made myself a white one quite a few years ago, and that one I've gained a little weight since then, and so it's just not as comfortable to wear. I mean, it's stretchy, I could still get it on, but it just doesn't make me feel as confident as it could. So with this iteration, I'm going to take that into account. Obviously, here everything still fits perfectly fine. I'm just going to make the tummy a tiny bit looser than that one was. And if you're not familiar with Jennifer Lauren Handmade, she is a pattern designer who does a lot of kind of vintage style stuff. Way back in the day, I did some pattern testing for her, but this one I purchased with my own money, and I have loved every single version that I have made. There's something about the shape of this top that I can take a material like this one that I'm wearing, which is pretty juvenile if you look close. Like, it looks like something you'd make a little girl's dress or something like that out of, and it elevates it. So I'm able to make it something cute that I can wear as an adult and feel confident in. So if you have a fun print of some kind, I actually have two right here that I also planned on making gable tops, but since it's been a while, I don't want to jump right in with my limited quantity of fancy fabric. But these would be great as gable tops because the gable top is completely uninterrupted. There's no seams going on here. You can just let your print shine. And so I will be making tops out of these fabrics in the future. But for now, today, I have my pattern printed out here, and I am going to use this lovely mint green, and we're gonna make a shirt. So first things first, you're gonna want to pick your size that you need. I have made quite a few of these, and I have traced myself my own pattern. So I'm going to be using that, and it looks like I made myself a combination of the 16 and the 18. So just measure around on the pattern pieces. If you need to make things a little wider down the bottom, no one's going to know that but you. It's going to be your size. So look at the measurements that it lists. Her measurements are really, really good. I definitely trust what she lists here. So go by the finished measurements. I had already traced mine out, so we're going to go with what I had last time when I made this top. Something that I definitely like to keep in mind when I do make this shirt is how much stretch recovery your knit has. So this one that I'm wearing is absolutely one of my favorites that I ever made. It's very relaxed, and a lot of it is to do with this fabric. Like, see, it springs back, but it's not like, it's not incredibly fast. So this has less of a knit recovery, even though it does recover. This one is a bit more of a spring back. So I'm going to keep that in mind. This If I want it to fit like this and be a little more relaxed in the tummy, I'm going to have to add a little fabric in that area. Otherwise, it will be very tight to this section. So as with any sewing project, the first thing that we have to do is cut out the pieces. So I am not always one to follow the cutting diagram in the pattern. That's not to say I don't pay attention to the grain, but I am pretty old school in that I try to get as much use out of the fabric that I have that I can. And that's just how I was taught to sew. So with this pattern, it's pretty simple. It just has a front piece and a back piece and some sleeves. And so I'm going to lay the front piece down. I know that you cannot see my face right now, but what I wanted you to see is what I'm doing here. So I have my pattern piece and I have put it to the edge of this fabric and I'm going to kind of walk that back. I'm going to use, I'm going to use my pattern piece to dictate where I fold this. I'm also keeping in mind that I am going to add some to the side, putting a weight on my fabric so that it doesn't slide off my table. This is a very fine knit, so honestly, it is kind of hard to tell if it is straight, but I'm just going to make sure that it is evenly folded all the way across. It's not. And that's pretty close because I did want to add some to the side. So this is looking good. And then since I have this on my cutting mat, I'm going to use pattern weights for this, which by pattern weights, I mean large metal washers that are heavy enough to hold the paper and the fabric down as I cut it. I also have this thrifted paperweight and it does the job just fine. But I have my fan on because I am always hot, even in the winter. So we're going to just lay these in the corners. Keep the paper nice and flat to the fabric. I will say, if you are not using a rotary cutter to cut your knits, then you do want to pin this. I find that putting my scissors underneath the fabric makes it lift up just enough, and it can be a little bit of a pain. But if you're using a rotary cutter, this works absolutely perfectly. So I am just gonna cut this out. I know that I like the fit in the bust, and I'm just going to avoid the waist nip in, come out a little bit at the hem. All right, my first piece is cut out. All right, now that my pieces are cut out, I can go and press them. I know some would be very much of the team that you should press this before you cut it. And there have been times when I do that, but this is a very large cut of fabric and it's knit. And I find that they just are very unruly when you have a large quantity. So I choose to press it afterwards, and that is your prerogative, but I'm going to go and press mine now. Also, when I press knits, I'm not pushing and sliding. I'm kind of hovering over and steaming with just a mild pressure. I find that if I push and slide, it can stretch the knit fabric out. And that's when you get these weird little, if I do that, you get these creases, or you get almost pucker looking sections. So while I do want there to be no wrinkles, I don't also want to cause myself a problem later. Since I'm over here ironing, one of the first steps that the pattern has you do is stabilize the shoulder seam. And there are notches that you're supposed to stop at. So I'm going to go ahead and stabilize it in my way of choice, which is with one of my all-time favorite sewing products, So Easy Knit Stabilizing Tape. So this is a skinny strip of interfacing, and they come, I think, like 1/2 inch as well, but this is 1 1/4 inches wide. Perfect for zippers, let me just say, but it works really great for the shoulder seams too. So I'm going to cut the piece to the length that I need, and I'm going to fuse that while I'm over here at the ironing board. Now that everything is cut and pressed and the shoulders are stabilized, pulling out my thread. So I have just standard polyester thread that matches perfectly, but I also have this that I purchased recently at the sewing studio just to give it a try. So this is called Elo Flex by Coats & Clark, and it actually has some stretch in the thread. And so it is incredibly close in color to this. I wasn't planning on that when I bought it. I actually bought it for this other fabric that I wanted to make. But since it does, we're gonna sew it with this and see how that holds up. I've never used a thread that had some stretch in it before. So we're gonna wind the bobbin. We're gonna start sewing. Now I am a very big stickler about the needles that I use on my projects. Not in the, oh, I must get this specific one kind of thing, only in that if I'm using knits, I'm going to use a jersey needle or a ballpoint needle. And then since I have my needles open, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my jersey twin needle. Okay, we're officially ready to stitch. Before we start going, I do also want to adjust my stitching. Most machines are going to have some kind of selection of the type of stitch that you do. So my particular machine, you can select whether it's a woven fabric or a knit fabric, and mine is already set to knit, so we're good there. And then all of these are going to be knit stitches. So I'm going to pick the lightning bolt stitch in the center, and it's just like a zigzag, it's just at a slight angle. You can actually see that kind of close up here. If you don't have a lightning bolt stitch in your machine, you can absolutely use a zigzag. I just have it, so I like to use it. Okay, so we're putting it together at the shoulders. All right, our stretchy thread is looking nice. Now we're supposed to press that seam open, and then I'm gonna finish off the whole neckline with my serger. My serger kind of pulled on this and gave it some weird little wrinkles, so I'm gonna go press that. So the next step that she has you do is stabilize the shoulders, and I have found this to be an incredibly useful technique. I like to use fancy ribbon because I have a penchant for buying these ribbons, and yet I have nothing else that I use them for. So I like to dig through my stash and find one that kind of coordinates, but that isn't going to show through the shirt. I actually have a blue similar one in this shirt, and so I'm going to follow directions and use a piece of this cute ribbon to stabilize the shoulders. And since this is not my tip, I'm not going to show you step by step, but if you do have the pattern, she gives really good directions on how to do this. And actually we're at the point that I needed to change my shirt so that I could see exactly what I did last time. And yep, it worked out really well. So I'm just gonna do exactly what I did the previous time. Okay, our shoulders are stabilized with this very adorable ribbon. And now I have to put the sleeves on. Before you insert the sleeve, you have to hem them. And I will say this is an incredibly useful technique. It makes it where there's so much less finishing at the end because it's all hemmed and you don't have to do such a small circumference as your sleeve in the throat of your sewing machine. It can be kind of annoying. So paying attention to which one is the front and the back. Always really hard to tell on a solid color knit like this, but if I look close, I can see vertical lines on the front and horizontal lines on the back, and they are knit stitches and purl bumps, so I can always tell which one is which. So to do this, I am going to go ahead back to the iron, and I'm going to fold up the hem allowance that I need to have. So now I am going to use that extra bobbin of thread, and in my case I have this embroidery setup at the back, so I'm going to just put that on one of those with the cap so it doesn't slide out, and I thread it in, and then you thread this needle exactly like you would any other needle. So I have to take off my ballpoint needle. I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to get my twin needle. And it is exactly as it sounds. It has two needles that function as one. So to do this, it's actually so much easier than it seems like it's going to be. I also like to cut my threads at an angle so that they're easier to get through the needle. And that's the one drawback, is even if you do tend to rely on a self-threading machine, you can't do that with a twin needle. You do have to do it by hand. Since I have not used this thread or this fabric before in my machine, I do like to take my scraps and I'm going to do a test run. So I'm just folding this scrap in half and we're gonna see how this looks. So sometimes you can get what's called tunneling. See how it's kind of bumping up right there? That's because the tension on the back is a little too much with this type of thread. And as you wear it, it'll make that bump up even more. So I'm going to decrease my tension. Little troubleshooting. My machine, my thread got a little hung on the top there, so that's not good. We're just gonna rethread. Such is the reality of sewing things sometimes, particularly if you're showing someone what you're doing. It always tends to have something go awry. I have to say, this Eleflex likes to split a lot more than regular thread does, so it's kind of a pain. We're gonna try that again, just to make sure, because it looked good this last time, but since that wasn't feeding through correctly, I want to make extra sure that it works like I think it's gonna. Oh, come on. Hell, machine. Well, I just had absolute machine meltdown in this process, and I really don't know why. So my lovely Husqvarna Ruby back here, I don't know, I'm gonna have to play with that later. It might have to go to servicing because it just all of a sudden decided to catch on every single stitch and it was building up. So I have pulled out my trusty old Singer here. This has been a great machine and it's a little yellowy, but she still does a great job, as evidenced by this lovely hem. So it does look a little tunnely right now, but the advantage that I was able to do with this machine, frankly, because I have more bobbins at my disposal, I like to use woolly nylon thread in the bobbin on my t-shirts, and they just really sit nicely. And I didn't have a bobbin loaded with that on the other machine. So now, even though it looks a little tunnely here, once I press this, it's gonna relax completely. Like, this stuff has way more give. So not only are we now having thread on top that has some stretch, but this underneath has some stretch as well. So this one, thankfully, worked out great. And we're just not gonna talk about this horribly mangled piece of fabric. We're gonna use my tried and true older machine that I haven't used in a couple of years. So let's hem the sleeves at long last. Why is it that things always go wrong when you want to show it to somebody, but when you just make it for yourself, it goes perfectly fine? Paint it just the way. So I started a little too close to the edge. This is a smaller hem here, but I'm going to make sure that I move over a little bit because my machine started to kind of suck it down. It's okay, just undo it. All right, so we have one hem done. Okay, so we have a perfectly twin needle hem. and I'm gonna go steam this so that it all sucks down like it's supposed to. Okay, now it's looking nice and flat. And we can set the sleeves into the shirt. For this part, I do use pins. Lined up nicely with my shoulder seam. And then I'm gonna match the notches on the side. This knit is giving me a little resistance, so I am going to use silk pins because they are thinner. I don't like to have big holes left by my pins, and sometimes they can actually rip if it's really fine knit. So I just switch to silk pins and then it's not a problem. And I like to curve it inward because the sleeve is going to need to be eased a little bit. So I like to put the sleeve underneath and pull it until it is smooth, and then pin in the center of that. Don't worry if you need more than just the one pin. There's no competition here. I'm the only one in this room sewing. It doesn't matter if I use pins. I'm not trying to impress anyone. Sometimes it's worth taking the time to pin something. Make sure that you don't have to unpick it later. Alright, now we're going to stitch this sleeve on. And again, I'm going back to my lightning bolt stitch. This machine has a lightning bolt stitch too. It's not just for fancy machines. Alright, what? Okay, it has been a couple of hours because I had to stop and pick up my kids. I thought this was going to be such a quick project, and usually it is. And so therefore the only culprit I can blame this on is how terrible this thread is. Maybe there is some machine out there that doesn't mind using this thread, but both of my machines have absolutely hated it. I sewed the sleeve on, and I mean, this is what it looks like underneath. There is no bobbin thread. It's just the thread itself from the top that's pushed down into that, and it's horrendous. I can't even pull it out. I'm having to cut it even though there's no bobbin locking it in place. It's a mystery. At least now I know that I will not be using Eloflex thread again. And now I have a nice hole in my fabric. Oh, this project, my gosh. Finally done getting the sleeve off. Now I can get all this thread off. I'm going to wind new bobbins of regular thread, and we are going to actually stitch this shirt together. Let's get this junk out of my machine. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I don't understand what machine would actually function with this awful thread. As I suspected, it is absolutely that awful thread. So this is just regular El Cheapo thread, and it's sewing like a champ. So we're going to use this instead. Goodness, what an experience. All right, we are all pinned. And since there is a little bit of a hole right here at the beginning, I'm going to go just in from that. And then I'll put a little stabilizer on there just to make sure that doesn't unravel over time. But for now, I'm just going to stitch this together. We have earned it. We have earned seeing a sleeve on this shirt. Huzzah! We have one sleeve. Now we have to do it for the other side. Okay, my iron is heating back up, but another thing that I like to do right after I have finished the sleeves is I'm going to serge the edges once I know that I like the fit of it. But when I do that, it's going to take off my back and front notches. So I'm not going to be able to tell which is the back and which is the front. So I like to add another little piece of this ribbon just as a tag inside. And that helps me when I'm getting dressed in the morning, quite frankly. It makes it so much easier to tell which side is the front. So I'm just cutting another little piece of my ribbon here. And for right now, all right, this side is the back. So I'm going to just fold it and I'm going to pin it in the back neckline. And that way I have it marked. I know which side is the back until I get to finish the whole neckline, which is in a couple of steps. My sleeve seam allowance is pressed to one side. I'm not super precious about which side I press it to. At the moment, it is pressed toward the sleeve because that's just kind of where it wanted to fall. I'm not going to finish the inside of this. Like, I'm not going to serge this right now, which technically you don't have to serge this. It is perfectly wearable and washable like this. Knit material is not going to fray. But I like to serge it because it makes everything a little bit shorter, a little neater, a little bit more like a professionally made store-bought garment. So anyway, I'm not doing that part yet. But what I am going to do next is we're going to make it into an actual shirt. So I'm going to put it together at the sleeves. And again, I just try to match up my seams because I want everything nice and neat. So has it been very cold where you are? While I'm pinning this, we might as well chat. It has been very unseasonably cold for us here in Central Florida. Where I live, the wind chill got us down to like 13 degrees, which is insane. Like, I'm used to a little bit of frost here and there, but this is the coldest I think they've said we've had in like 15 years here. So it's all well and fine. My ducks are not enjoying it. Which interestingly, they're the one animal that really doesn't need very much cold protection, but I mean, because they have their own house. And so they just go in the house and it's fine. But I've had to bust their pond water every morning because it freezes over. And they are very upset about it in the morning when they get up. So it's kind of funny. But let me know how cold it is where you are and how much of a wuss I am. I like the cold weather, but a lot of other people here, like at church, everybody was wearing blankets because people just don't have cold weather clothes. But to me, it was a great opportunity to wear my thrifted mink coat, so that was fun. I actually look forward to that. All right, we are going to sew the side seams together. It is officially a shirt. It's definitely a bit snugger in the tummy than I had hoped that it would be. And as usual, this is really long. Pretty much every time I've made this, I've had to shorten it quite a bit, and I have a very long torso. So for the length, I'll probably just hold up this purple shirt, lay it on there, see how long I want it to be, because I love the length of that one. And then sometimes I've made this and I've had to take it in, but obviously that's not the case this time. A lot of the time it's with the sleeves. Sleeves I've had to take in, but these are perfectly comfy. This is a much more suck it in kind of knit. So, it is what it is. So for the neckline, you actually kind of have to try it on and then fold it down to see what height works for you. And actually, that might be the least I've ever had to fold this in. That looks pretty good right there. Yeah, I like that. Hold it still. I only really need a pin right there in the center, and then I'll just level it from there. But my shoulders are all in the right place. I'm sorry if I'm looking above you. I'm looking in my little mirror since I'm trying to do this without a technical mirror. The back never has to be as deep folded down. So I'm just gonna fold it a bit and put a pin. I hope that I don't stab myself when I take it off. That looks good. And then I'm gonna slightly fold this up to the length that I'm gonna want it. That's pretty close. And seriously, that's like 4 inches that I have to cut off of this thing. But I'm gonna put a couple of pins in that. And then, like I say, I will compare that to my purple shirt when I take it off. For now, I think it's fine. It's a little snug in the tummy, but like I said, such is life. So I'm now going to take this off. I'm going to press down this neckline just like it is. And then I'm going to check it for length and all those kinds of things. And then we'll go to the sewing machine and do the neck and the hem. I'm ready for our comparison here. Lay it flat, and then I'm going to take this one that I have worn for years now. I'm going to match the shoulder seams so that I know I'm looking at the same distance from the shoulders. Yep, that is exactly where I pinned it. Okay, so we're looking good there. I'm going to press these. I'm going to make sure that this hem is nice and straight first, because I just kind of pinned it on my body. It might not be totally straight, but either way, I'm going to press it down, because before we do the hem, I am going to finish the side seams with my serger and the sleeve openings. One of the reasons that I really like to finish the insides of these sleeves is because of that little ribbon that I put there. This way it won't fray, it'll be serged in place. Okay, we are on to the neckline. Got it all serged. There's so many threads everywhere, oh my gosh. So the neckline is done from the outside, right side facing you. I also need to pin in my little back tag ribbon. So the directions tell you to do the front first, and so you're supposed to sink your needle directly into the seam at the shoulder, a 1/4 inch in, and then follow this. So typically, if you like more of the slash high neck, then you can just go a regular seam allowance there, but I do need it to dip down. So I'm just going to go by feel, where I can feel the bump of the fabric underneath, and I'm going to try to get it close as I can. Looks nice and smooth. All right, the neckline is done. My tag is in the back, and now my shoulder stabilization is definitely secured because it's been caught in the neckline and the sleeve, so it's always going to be in this direction, which is nice. So the only thing left for us to do is the hem. I did press where I wanted it before, so it does have that line. And I have to thread up my machine to do twin needle. On this machine, doing twin needle, I have a little spool, and that's most normal machines. So this is going to have my second thread, and I'm gonna take a chance and do the stretchy thread again, just because I already have all these bobbins wound up. Might as well get to use them on something. So twin needling is done from the outside. All right, I'm doing 6/8 because that's the farthest out line on my machine. And I'm just gonna smooth this out as I go to make sure there's no puckering. Everything underneath looks just as nice as it does on the top. Looks very nice. So now I'm gonna go in carefully, because with how the rest of this project has gone, who the heck knows what could happen. But I'm going to carefully go in and cut this close to my seam end. Feels like a miracle, but the last thing that I need to do is I need to put these serger ends more securely into the seam. So I use a darning needle for that. I also have this cool little tool called a hooky thing, but I just didn't see it on my desk and I didn't want to try to hunt for it. So we're going with a darning needle, and you just thread the tail in and then go underneath the looper threads and secure that down. And that'll just keep it from falling out as you wear the shirt. It is now time to try this on and reveal my new shirt. It is done, friends. I managed to finish this shirt. I will admit, earlier in the day, I did not think that this was going to happen. I was trying to figure out like what on earth else can I do as a video, because this was just turning into Murphy's Law of sewing. But I got here in the end. I have a functioning shirt. It's a smidge tighter than I was hoping for, to be honest, but it's still not bad. It's just very fitted. So at least now I know, because I have a few other cuts of this type of fabric, that I do need to add at least an inch, I would say, to give myself a little bit more ease. But in the end, the neckline is cute. I love this color. I know that I will still wear this shirt. and I'm very excited to sort of have my toes back in on sewing clothing. Had this been my first ever time sewing a t-shirt and all these things had gone wrong, I would have written off sewing t-shirts forever. And it's only because I've been sewing for like a decade, I've been making my own clothes, that I know that this was not the norm. Normally, I can whip one of these shirts out from cutting to finishing within 2 to 3 hours, but that thread was the only variable that was unknown. And as soon as I changed away from that thread, it did not have any more problems. So Eloflex is a no-go for me. I am very pleased with my finished shirt. I hope that you enjoyed seeing this process, and even though I had so many problems, I hope that you can see that you can stop and take a step back, try to figure out, do a little troubleshooting, and you can get there in the end. It may be a little frustrating, but trust me when I say normally making a t-shirt is so much easier than what I just experienced today. So that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to stick around and see other things that I make in the future. I am always knitting, sewing, crocheting, all the things. And now that I have my sewing room back, I will be sewing a lot more things and I'm very excited about it. And until next time, I will be wearing my very stylish new Gable top.